The reason, if there was a reason for writing the Breaking the Spell, it's because between the time of the contagion myth and writing Breaking the Spell, I was introduced to the work of a guy named Harold Hillman. Now, I don't know if you know Harold Hillman, but he was the best biologist who ever lived. If you haven't read Hillman, you have not lived. And so the reason I say that is because he dedicated himself to saying, unless we really prove that this is true, I'm not going to believe it. So let me give you an example, because he ended up saying everything you see in an electron microscope is an artifact.
An artifact means that the procedure that scientists use to view a cell specimen under an electron microscope has somehow damaged, changed, or altered the cell from the original state it was in before the procedure.
Because after all, you take a living tissue, you kill it, soak it in alcohol, soak it in glutaraldehyde, freeze it to minus whatever, 80, stain it with heavy metal or transmission with these, and that picture you get has no resemblance with what happens in a living being. None. And that's the only way we've seen viruses. That's also the only way we've seen something called a ribosome.
Right.
Right? So a ribosome, and here's the things that Hillman, I would say, and I'll use this word judiciously, demonstrated, maybe proved, don't exist. Lipid bilayer membranes, synapses in nerves, endoplasmic reticulum, ribosomes, Golgi apparatus, sodium-potassium pump, protein receptors in cell membranes. And there's about 20 other ones. Now, I guarantee if you read Hillman and you read it with an open mind, and I'll give you an example, you will also agree. So let me talk about ribosomes. First of all, ribosomes are very important to this current problem because that's where mRNA is translated, made into proteins in the cytoplasm. That's what we're told. And without ribosomes, there's no place for these proteins to be made. And the reason this is so important is we are living proteins, right? Proteins in water and minerals, that's what a human being on a physical level. So it's important to, the whole genetic theory is DNA makes RNA, makes protein, and that's made in the ribosomes. So he goes and traces the whole history of ribosomes from the initial discovery. And one of the things, and there's a whole lot to this, but I'll just be brief. One of the things he found is that every single picture of a ribosome is a perfect sphere. Perfect sphere. Now, remember that the only way you saw it is you took some tissue, put it in a blender, froze it, stained it, dehydrated it, poisoned it, etc., cut it up into little pieces. So I ask you, if you have an orange, that's a perfect sphere, and what you see on a picture is a circle, right? Because that's what a sphere is. What are the chances if you put it in a blender that every piece of that orange would be a perfect circle?
Right.
The answer is 0. And so what is it? It's a stained gas bubble. It's a stained gas bubble. Which means there is no place we know of where the mRNA is made into protein. And maybe that's not even the way it works. Now, here's just to show another side of this, because I ended up thinking that whoever it is that knows this story, they know what I'm saying is true.
Yeah.
So do you know what the word ribosome means?
No, I guess I don't.
Let's think about it for a minute. It's rib, right? R-I-B-O, meaning of, soma. What's a soma?
Body.
Rib from the body. You know where that comes from?
I mean, we're talking Adam and Eve there.
We're talking Adam and Eve. In other words, they're messing with you. They know that, whatever, God created substance by manipulating water somehow. Energy plus water makes life.
Right.
And they wanted to mess with you and say, you know, this thing we're going to tell you makes the life? It's actually the rib from the body, so that you can think about that until you find the key to the puzzle. Now, most people haven't figured out the key to the puzzle, but I happened to hear about that, so I knew.
Well, another example of that is the approved so-called vaccine that really doesn't exist, Comirnaty. And if you look at the word, it's comedy, like comity, with an RNA stuck right in the middle.
Right.
So comedy meaning to get along, to be in harmony. But you're going to put RNA right in the middle of the harmony. Yeah.
Yes.
So I thought that's what that was about too.
So they mess in so the reason why this is the answer to your question is once we see that this entire edifice of modern biology, from at least the time of Virchow in the 1850s, is basically nonsense. It's an artifact. It's a materialistic make-believe story.